I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. My name is Melissa Meli, the spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, cop and a half.
You know him. You love him. It's Tristan Miller, the saucy sleuth.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/abcpod and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/abcpod. That was a really good vocal exercise for this morning.
Yeah, you did a great job with the copy there.
Thanks.
A+.
I got my real, customer service phone voice on and everything.
I'm not listening to this book, but I'm reading this book. I know.
With your human eyes?
Yeah, with my human eyes. I'm trying to humanize my human eyes. It's called Nothing to See Here. It's about a woman who's asked to be a governess to an old friend of hers, but the trick is her children inexplicably, spontaneously combust. I haven't gotten I'm only in the first chapter, but my friend Hattie Hayes, she recommended the book to me. She and her boyfriend Matt Stores have both read it and recommended it also to my girlfriend. So I'm going to pass this book around.
So we listened to we watched a show.
We did.
I
We
was
both.
like, oh boy.
We did both.
Did I do the wrong thing?
I don't know.
That's my sequel to Spike Lee's hit film. Did I do the right thing? Starring Stephen Urkel.
Oh, okay.
Did I do the right thing?
Oh.
Tyler's expression is priceless. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
Yeah, because for a second I thought you said Steve Rickles, and I was like, does he mean Don Rickles? And then I was thinking about Don Rickles in Do the Right Thing.
Oh, that's
so
fun.
I just went through a whole bunch of thoughts at once.
Ah.
Understandable.
The wheels a turning.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh,
Stefan Urkel in Did I Do the Right Thing? Okay.
Yes. So today we watched the episode premiere of season 5. What am I saying? The season premiere of Poirot season 5, episode 1.
Perfect. The title on this bad boy is The Adventure of the Egyptian Tomb, based off of a short story that Melissa and I have read. Tyler, you can do that at your leisure.
If you want
so,
to.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you want, that's my leisure, you can do it whenever, if you'd like,
Yeah, exactly.
At your leisure, I am.
If is good.
Mm-hmm. If
is good.
So, I'm sure I did, but it's been a minute. Talked about this when we read the short story, talked about how Agatha Christie was married to an archaeologist, her second husband.
Yes.
And so she went on lots of digs with him. So that's part of mostly why she has written about them in her short stories and novels and stuff.
So we begin with this old-timey newsreel-ish thing we get in some episodes.
Mm-hmm.
About this excavation happening in Cairo, and it's Mr. Belvedere, or whatever the heck his last name is.
Bleibner?
It begins, yes. What was it?
Bleibner.
Yes. I hardly know her. So it's a newsreel, and they're explaining that there's an archaeological dig happening in Cairo for the tomb of, what is the pharaoh's name that they're
Menhera. It's
Menhera.
It's spelled MEN-HER/RA.
Yes.
So like Shira, but Menhera instead.
But Menra instead of Shira.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, putting the his back in history.
Yes. So they're digging up this tomb. They finally break open this tomb. Full I don't think we have time to get into the colonial aspects of this archaeological dig.
We don't.
But
we all know. I mean,
read a book.
Watch that scene in Black Panther again, and you'll get the gist.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But they bust her open.
Yeah, literally. Like, there's like an old, ancient padlock thing on it, and they just take a hammer and smash it.
Ye olde padlocks here. Get your ye olde padlocks.
I mean, it's very...
Like, who would that keep out? Like, even in those days. Like, it's just so...
What's the combination? Age. Only time will tell.
Ugh.
But yeah, absolutely. It's just like they really just break this piece of like
Clay.
stone or clay.
Yeah, and it has like symbols on. It's probably fascinating and, you know, has lots of historical value, but whatever. They just
It just
smash
says "Do not open" in hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
That's all.
Do not open. It says this side up. Okay.
Somebody's buried here. Leave them alone. Let them rest in peace, please.
So they get into this tomb. They get into like the pharaoh's section of the tomb, and then is it Bleibner?
No, it's John Willard.
John Willard,
which is my mother's maiden name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also, John Willard is the name of one of the people that was killed in the Salem witch trials, so possibly related to me.
Interesting.
Am I a witch?
I'm not a witch.
There is a lake I
wife.
can throw you in to find out.
Wait, witches do or don't float?
We'll find out.
By the way, do float.
Oh.
Which, because... it's a win-win for murder, because like if they do float, that means you're a human being, because human beings float.
Right, yes.
But if you sink to the bottom and you die. So it's like either way that person is dead. It's very similar with like if you burn a witch, if they burn up they're a witch, but if they if they survive they're a witch.
Right.
And then you kill them. But if not, they're burned up.
Yeah. I always remember reading that logic that they threw out for the witch test. And
what a great comfort to, you know, the families of the non-witches. Like, yes, your loved one is no longer with us, but they weren't a witch. So there's that.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're in this tomb. Willard just has a heart attack and dies.
Or something.
Yeah.
He dies very dramatically. It's like they're panning around on all of the artifacts. There's statues of Egyptian gods, you know, the whole nine. And he like falls into frame to die.
Pressed. His face is pressed. He grabs his chest. And then his face is pressed.
Yeah.
And he finally gets eternal rest. And then they contact the press.
Nice. Unless
they don't.
Oh, okay.
But they did.
But they did.
But they did. Is the thing.
Yes. And he practically has his tongue hanging out. Like, that is the level of dead this guy was.
Yeah.
His eyes get big. Yeah, it's very...
It was very Hanna-Barbera, this death.
I laughed out loud.
Yeah. Also, there's this eerie music playing the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't even a variation on the theme this time, I don't think.
I know.
No,
they're branching out.
Yeah.
And they didn't... They also did not have they were not playing a spin on 1, 2, Buckle My Shoe, which was nice.
Yes. Thank gosh.
Yeah, they got that season 5 budget, y'all.
Mm-hmm. The theme started playing, though, you know, the opening theme. Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that they play the theme song and then they get to the episode. They don't do like a stinger. They don't do a cold open and then they play the like we do in the States.
Yeah.
But the theme song started playing and I did get excited. I was like, he's back. He's around. He's back. He's my best friend.
Hercule Poirot.
He's Hercule Poirot.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah. So he's super dead. They call the press. And then we cut to Poirot. Oh no, we cut to Miss Lemon, who is reading a tarot deck. She's back too.
She's back.
Mm-hmm.
And I did miss Lemon.
Yeah, always.
And she's like every white woman in Brooklyn, reading those tarot cards, trying to do a seance. Truly ahead of her time. Yes.
And as Poirot comes in, she very, very quickly like opens the drawer and like shoves all the cards dramatically into the desk. It's great. So she shoves all the cards into her deck, and she's a little flustered. Tells him at first he doesn't have any messages, but oh wait, there is one message, and it's from Mrs. Willard.
Yes.
And she says that she wants him to investigate her death. I don't know where that accent came from, but there it is.
Yes, you need to investigate the death of her husband that happened in Cairo.
Yeah.
Because Poirot.
No.
Oh boy.
Right. And Bleibner also died, and they died within like
a fortnight of each other.
Yeah. So
I thought they were intense.
They were playing the game Fortnite.
So yes, Sir John died of heart failure. Mr. Bleibner was blood poisoning. He actually sends a telegram or something to Hastings, who is in New York.
Yeah, New York City.
Yes.
Because he was doing big business out in California.
Right. So he goes and tries and meets with Bleibner's...
Rupert.
Yeah, who is Bleibner's nephew. God, that's hard to say. Bleibner's nephew.
Who was in Cairo.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was in Cairo briefly, and he's about to get married. And he's like, I gotta go home. I gotta go home to get married. Mm-hmm. And then he does that. And then...
Yes, because we see a bit earlier that while he's in Cairo, he is there with some of his school chums, a Dr. Ames, and another person.
Mm-hmm.
Some other guy from Yale.
Yeah.
Right.
All three. They were a Yale threesome, as, they would say.
Yep. And when Hastings comes in, he's like super out of sorts. Rupert is. And he is in this very grand room with dark blue walls. I was really into the decor. It was nice. Because it's one of those giant rooms that you can paint a really dark color and it still looks big.
I prefer the night core. The night core.
The night court?
Do. It's supposed to decor.
Oh, okay.
The night core.
Oh.
Oof.
Okay.
Okay.
It's early, folks. We're recording an hour earlier than we normally do.
Because I have stuff to do. He's very out of sorts. He's like, Mr. Hastings, could we not do this right now? I'm really, it's not a good time. And he is wearing these white gloves the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mr. Hastings is like, being British, is like, oh yes, of course, I'm so sorry, and leaves.
Yeah. And the reason he stopped by at all is because he read that his, I guess, uncle had died in the paper. And he happened to know where he was in New York.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. He goes to visit him, and then he goes and he has this wonderful scene with this waiter who is still working. I looked up this actor on IMDb. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's really good in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some confusion about eggs over easy versus not.
Yeah,
and then he reads in the paper that Bleibner Sr. has died. And then he goes back to Bleibner Jr.
Right.
And he goes, Mr. Bleibner. It's very fun. Mr. Bleibner.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Bleibner Jr. has shot himself in the temple.
Yeah.
and lays there dead in his white gloves on his chaise lounge.
Yeah.
And then Hastings boats back to London.
A little rowboat.
Yeah.
Something. He gets there.
Back.
Yeah, he gets there somehow.
Yes, the Queen Mary. We see a little from the newsreel.
Yeah. So he goes and sees Poirot, and he's like people. So okay, Lady Willard's son, the son also, of course, of the late John Willard. His name is Guy.
Yes. Played by Grant Thatcher.
Yeah, Guy is worried that he's gonna die because everyone's dying. He's afraid, like, that the Egyptian tomb, because they broke it open, has put a curse on them, which they would absolutely deserve.
Yeah.
Though I will say, like, this moment even, this episode had a lot less racism than I anticipated.
I know. I was like, oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm. Less racist than expected.
I can't remember anything overt, but other than the fact that, like, they're doing what they're doing. Important tidbit as well. Guy's mother, the widower to... No, not the widower, just his mother. Doesn't want him to go to Cairo. Right. Because she's like, it's not safe. Also, you should have a different career entirely. So, don't do it. Don't do it. And he's like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, mummy. Mummy.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, Mummy, they took my boot. And then he goes off to Cairo, and Hastings and Poirot go off after them as well. They all go to Cairo. That's the most important thing. They end up in Cairo together.
Yes, and at some point during this, they take this ridiculous picture in front of the tomb with, like, everyone in the dig.
Yes.
You know, like, you'd see on someone's wall, the president at the dig of this person. I don't know.
Here's some politics for you.
Sure.
There's a museum. There's the British Museum, BM, and then there's the Metropolitan Museum in New York. And there's some tense feelings there. Okay. And I can't remember the director of the New York's name, but he's the low rent Jason Alexander.
Yes.
Yes.
Fingers like sausages on this man. Beautiful. Okay, well, they're taking the photo. This happens a little bit after we get introduced to everybody.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But they take a very fun photo, and then they open the sarcophagus itself, and Poirot says something very cryptic, as I was about to say. But as they come in, Poirot and Hastings are introduced to everybody. There's Dr. Ames, medicine woman. There's... Dr. Ames is in fact a man. I'm making a reference to Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Anyway, they all introduce themselves, and Poirot also says, isn't it crazy how the mummy's curse is happened? And everyone's like, you don't actually believe in that, do you? He's like, yes, I am a believer in the occult. And they're like, okay, this French guy's weird. Because they're all American.
Yeah.
They don't know no better.
There was one point...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, there's just one point in this where one guy was talking and Rich was like, oh, that's a really good American accent. And then it was not good anymore. He's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
What's that? The Jason Alexander guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For sure. He's like, hey, fellas, isn't America great? He sounds like John Mulaney.
Okay.
Maybe that's where John Mulaney gets his accent from.
Yeah. It's just called Connecticut, but yeah.
Connecticut, yes.
It's like, say, fellas, I was walking.
Well, where's Yale? That might actually make sense.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's better than we thought.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
I mean, yeah. I feel like I've known people from Connecticut, but maybe.
And John Mulaney is from
Yale
the
is
West.
the... oh, yeah.
So, it's all a wash. It's the same reason.
But can we also talk about, like, how excited Hastings was to share a room with Poirot or share a tent.
How's your fan fiction, Tyler?
I had to write some new chapters. I mean, that like took it to a whole new level.
But yeah, they share they share a tent, and Hastings is like, and in one point changes in front of Poirot, and we see his boxer shorts. It's very risque for
which
this
also
show.
made me had to go back and alter all the brief references that I had of Hastings in my fan fiction. He's a boxer man. I didn't peg him as such.
I hope you were just able to do it, search and replace all.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're sharing a tent, and Poirot is not having any of it, whereas Hastings, of course, is enjoying himself because he's, who he is. He has got an adventurous personality.
Yeah, Hastings loves an adventure. Poirot loves solving cases and hates the circumstances that he has to put himself to do.
Consistently.
Yeah.
He just wants a murder. That's all he wants.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
So
they are there. They're sharing a tent.
We're still on the tent.
We're still on the tent.
It's been 5 minutes.
Yeah. And then over the course of them being there, the Jason Alexander becomes ill with tetanus, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And just croaks. And then,
yeah, because he has like this really weird episode, in his tent, and then we see just like 30 seconds later, like he's dead.
Out of there.
So then one night, Poirot gets a cup of tea.
I'm sorry. It sounds like a campfire story.
I know.
And then one night, Poirot.
Yeah. I must confess, I'm using to keep myself on track with this episode because there are just so many people that die in this. I'm using a quick summary from the Wikipedia, and I was trying not to read a direct quote from Wikipedia, but then I just gave up, and it's one night.
But hey, I mean, the great thing about Wikipedia is you can do a direct quote and then just go back and change it. So it's not like you...
Yeah, exactly. But yes, at some point during this whole thing, Poirot gets a cup of tea. And then Hastings hears Poirot choking. And it's very dramatic.
Yes. There's something that comes before this, though. That is important.
Okay. Yes, please.
Poirot is determined to sneak into Dr. Ames's tent to investigate.
Yeah.
And there's this terrible scene where Dr. Ames has some sort of injury. And he is limping towards Hastings, and Hastings is trying to keep him out of the tent while Poirot is investigating. And he does a very bad job of it. It's very amusing. And then Ames is just like, I would like to go into my tent, please. And he goes in, and then Poirot immediately comes out underneath the tent on the other side and is like brushing himself off. But Poirot has found a vial, and has and it's important for some reason. But
will the vial end up being vile?
Extract of llama, which is, if you think about that for a minute, disgusting. So we cut to later on, which is what Melissa was saying.
Right.
Hassan, who is the attendant at the dig site for
whose son?
Yusan. Who sews Sue socks? Sue sews Sue socks. Whose socks? Sue socks. Slow Joe Crow comes.
Okay,
Have
yes.
you not read Fox and Socks? Did you not try to commit Fox and Socks to memory last summer when working at a summer camp?
Oh, I mean, yes to the first question, no to the second, weirdly.
What do you know about Tweedlebeetles?
Not nearly enough.
Well, when Tweedlebeetles fight, it's called a Tweedlebeetle battle.
Tweedlebeetle battle?
Yeah.
Great. So, yes, Hassan gets tea for Poirot. Hastings hears Poirot choking. And then he's in the tent, unmoving. So he calls Dr. Ames in and says, "Oh no, what are we going to do? Is Poirot all right?"
And
it's a big fuss.
Yeah. They come over and he's like, "Well, he's still alive. He's got a pulse."
Yeah.
And then they all turn to each other as like, and they smell the cup where the tea was in, and they're like, "Oh, it smells like, what was it, strychnine?"
Cyanide?
Yeah,
it was a poison.
It must have been cyanide because strychnine doesn't have a smell.
There you go.
If I remember.
Yeah.
From Agatha.
Didn't it smell like almonds or something? Isn't that
Yes, it smelled like almonds, yes.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then the camera pans back and Poirot is like, "Gotcha!"
He just like springs up.
Then Ashton Kutcher comes in. It's like, "You've been punked." Anyway, so, and then Poirot is like, "I have this glass vial full of the tea, and I'm gonna spill it in this next scene after the ad break."
Exactly.
Hi, I'm Tristan Miller, and if you enjoy this programming, you might enjoy also programming on the Scavengers Network, a network of podcasts and other fine media. You can go to scavengersnetwork.com to learn more.
Tristan's just staring into the middle distance. Looks like he's gonna, I don't know, go off on a journey or something.
Just guess. So,
okay.
I don't know. I left a pause for you to pick up the ad break and you just didn't take it.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about the great shows like Spooky Spouses and Myth Takes and
name two more.
Historical Hotties and...
Got one more. Morgan needs a podcast.
Thank you. Yeah.
The Broads and the Bees.
Okay.
You got a bunch out there. And then also they're on Twitch. They're a Twitch affiliate now. You can look at some of their live streams. It's all very nice. You can go to teespring.com/themill, which is also in the show notes, to get some of our new merch, order and method. If you buy those things, we will donate the proceeds to I always say a organization, which is just fundamentally incorrect. Organization associated with the Black Lives Matter movement. If you have a specific one in mind, you can either put it in your receipt or just DM us on Twitter.
Great. So, we are on social media, as Tristan referenced, on Twitter, @ADCPod, on Instagram, @ADCPod, and our Facebook page, facebook.com/ADCPod. Check us out on all of those exciting places and chat more with us about Poirot, Number One Ladies Detective Agency, Murder, She Wrote, etc. We love to hear from you.
Is there some sort of group?
Yeah, there is. It's called the Amateur Detective Club. And you can request to be in that group and answer those questions. Please answer the questions or we won't know that you are okay. You know, it's like clicking that not a robot button, except you're answering questions. We don't let robots into our group. Very exclusive that way.
That ain't right. Xenophobic.
Is it?
Hello, amateur detectives. We
Hello.
have a Patreon. So, for $10 or less a month, you too can be a member of the Amateur Detective Club. For $1 a month, you can be an amateur sleuth. At this level, you receive access to bonus episodes and content. For $3 per month, you'll be a private investigator. At this level, you'll receive early access to all the shows, plus bonus episodes and content. And to be an ace gumshoe, all you need do is subscribe at the $10 level, where you can place an ad for yourself or your business during the show. And all other perks. Patreon.com/ADCpod.
Or if you're my boyfriend, you can instead of placing an ad,
make me say,
have Tristan play a weird clip of a television show.
Butt soup. Thank you so much, Rich. There was something I was going to say. Oh, yeah. I would encourage you, if you enjoy the show, to consider the Patreon like a subscription fee. But a pay what you want subscription fee. So, like, for $1 a month, you get access to our show. Like, it's, you know, the way things used to be.
Yeah.
That helps my mindset.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense when you break it down that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the show.
So do we get our tent reveal yet?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna give you a tent reveal.
Oh, God. Sometimes I say things and then I don't realize where they can go.
Do you get a tent reveal in your love relationship, Melissa? I'm never gonna let you live that down. Which is unfair of me because I've said far stupider things on this program, and I don't remember them.
But you remember when I say a stupid thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I care.
Because of the rarity.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Amazing. So, we go into the tent, and because there's no parlor because we're on an archaeological dig.
No reason to be tentative about this.
Oh.
Yeah, there it is.
I found this whole episode too campy.
Yeah, doesn't the doctor die?
No.
No?
No, not at all. In fact, the opposite.
Oh. All right.
That may have been the aims at one point.
Oh, okay.
But
no, I'm sorry. I got all kerfuffled because there's so many men in this episode.
There's a lot of men. They all look the same.
Yeah.
So, basically what happens was Dr. Ames killed everybody. And the reason being, well, except for the first death, which was natural causes.
Yeah, John Willard just had a heart attack.
And died.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, wait a minute. The mummy's curse. I know how to get a fortune. Because he knew that Willard Jr., not Willard. Yeah? Yeah.
Guy?
No. Bleibner.
Oh, Bleibner. So Rupert.
Bleibner Jr. and Bleibner Sr. Would get... Somehow were the heir to a fortune.
Yeah.
Bleibner
yeah,
Jr.
the family portion, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when Bleibner died, he was like, hey, wait a minute. Because Bleibner died, he murdered Bleibner. Because then he knew the fortune would go to Bleibner Jr., who, in a party at Yale, had made up a will and testament to give everything to Ames.
Yeah.
Because he was
from
drunk.
that old Yale three-way, where Ames had saved Rupert's life somehow.
From drowning.
Yeah. So Rupert had gotten leprosy. He thought he had leprosy, but the doctor told him he did.
But he just had eczema.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a normal rash. So but Ames told him that, and when his uncle died, he was like, "Oh no, I must be cursed too with this leprosy," which is why he shot himself.
Yeah, and he left a note of like, "Oh God, I am a leper. I will be ostracized from society."
Yeah.
And like everyone's like, "Oh, he must be speaking metaphorically."
Right.
And it's like, no.
No, he was speaking very literally.
Yeah, my ears are gonna fall off, and I don't want to live through that.
Yeah.
Because he'd gone to Hawaii, and apparently during this time there was an epidemic of leprosy in Hawaii, and so he's like, "Oh, I could have quite reasonably contracted the disease."
Yeah.
And then
leper. I hardly.
And then Bleibner Sr. had a cut, and that became infected, that the doctor induced the infection somehow. And then Hastings is all like, "Well, what about Jason Alexander?" And he's like, he injected tetanus into him to make him die, just to like throw off suspicion because the mummy's curse, etc., etc.
Yep. Doctors are the scariest.
Terrifying.
Yeah, they're scary killers.
Oh, for sure.
There is some doctor serial killers. You do not want to come across them. And nurses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get real ratchet.
That's right.
Excellent reference.
Yeah. So the doctor did at some point swallow a capsule. That's what I got.
Yes. To make himself ill, too.
Yes, exactly. That's right. So to make it look like,
scent.
Yeah, curses everywhere.
And the doctor pulls out a gun, and it's like, "I would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for you, meddling French person." And he's like, "I'm Belgian."
Yep.
And then he runs off, and Hassan is outside and captures him, and they take him away. Now, there's a subplot that is important to the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because also there's a scene where Hastings and Miss Lemon are doing a Ouija board.
Yes.
Trying to contact anybody, and they're like, "Oh, we think it might be the Pharaoh." And then it's like, "Okay, well, why?" Poirot's like, "What's going on?" And then it's a really sweet moment. They have this other scene with Poirot and Hastings. And Poirot is like, "What's going on with Miss Lemon?"
Yeah.
And Hastings is like, "Oh, her cat died and she's depressed. And she's trying to contact it. And the cat's name is Catherine the Great because she used to sleep in the fireplace."
So great. I love it so much.
And so when Poirot returns from Cairo, he gifts her a small statue of a kitty cat from the archaeological dig.
Yeah, that he robbed from Menonra's grave.
He desecrated the... Would you desecrate a tomb to make your friend feel better?
No.
Maybe. No, I would.
A tomb with a view.
It's the best kind of tomb.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it was a nice thought. It's the thought that counts, not the desecration of the grave.
That's the old adage, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, what did we think?
I'll go.
Great.
2.5 out of 5. It was a very middling episode for me. Yeah, I thought I figured out who did it very quickly.
Yeah.
But the journey to get there was, it was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd give it. I think a 2.5 as well, right in the middle. Good episode. Nothing glaringly bad about it. Nothing particularly exciting. I like that Miss Lemon is back. That makes me happy. And Hastings, because we haven't had them the entirety of the last season, even though we had Jap, which I did enjoy. I would say as well. I would love to see this be turned into a movie, and I think it is with Peter Ustinov. Because it feels like there's a lot more potential to like expand the characters and the plot. Because with this episode, it goes pretty quickly, and I know it's based off of a short story, but I would have liked to see more. And it's a very fun setting. These kind of arc. It reminded me of like Indiana Jones. And like, if you had a full-scale budget to show the beauty of Egypt and like really kind of get into it, I think it would be a very good episode, and I would have gotten higher marks. But as it stands, a 2.5.
I'm gonna give it a 2.5 as well.
There we go.
Hey, ding, 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 ding. That's what happens when we all agree on a rating, right?
The balloons come down.
Yeah.
Confetti.
Yeah. So I was gonna give it a 2 because there's just like no women in it except for except for, and here's the bump up, Miss Lemon, because that is super fun and she's super great and I love her.
And Mrs. Willard.
Yeah,
who does a very fine job. I really like her.
She's good. She's good too, but
she's there for like 10 seconds.
Exactly, and there's no ladies on the dig, but it's fine. It's a fine episode. There's some fun moments. We get some good Poirot Hastings hijinks going on. I disagree, Tristan. I think that this is all that can be gotten out of this particular story. I love the setting too, but I think that it's a setting for a different story. Like we can do more with something else.
Perhaps Death on the Nile, which comes out sometime.
Oh, yeah, the Brenna.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to, I assume there's a Suchet version of Death on the Nile as well. And we haven't read any or watched any Death on the Nile stuff, so that's exciting that we still have that to look forward to. But yeah, Christie knows a lot about it because she spent some time there. But yeah, it is a fine episode. Wouldn't turn it off if it came on my television and I was puttering around doing something else.
Yeah. I will say this, a couple of notes of like returning to Poirot. Number one, I think this episode was also made like less enjoyable due to the fact that like I knew the plot.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't remember who did it, but I remember what happened. I was like, okay, so they did a bit about
exactly.
But I will say when Suchet stepped on screen, I did get like really excited and happy, and I was like, oh, I do really love this character in this series. And like as much as I love number one Ladies Detective Agency, which I do with all my heart, 99% of my heart, well, you know, the potential for love is exponential. So anyway, I'm very happy to be back with Suchet and Poirot, and those are my feelings. I was very happy to see this this little Eggman that I adore, and the team's back, you know.
Yeah, getting the band back together.
Mm-hmm.
No Jap in this one, but I'm sure we'll get him back soon. Mm-hmm. All right, next time on Agatha Christie's Poirot, we have season 5, episode 2, which is called The Underdog. Which it's a very unexpected episode title. Poirot investigates, when the cruel CEO of a chemical company is bludgeoned to death in his home after the company's formula for a revolutionary new synthetic rubber is targeted by a thief. Oh boy.
Prepare for me to have no sympathy for the deceased.
Yeah. The cruel CEO, I mean, it's all pretty redundant.
When the rubber hits the dead.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Rubber. I hardly know where that one
no.
actually works, though.
It does.
It does.
But it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it is.
And it looks like we have Miss Lemon in this one, too.
What is it, Pauline Moran?
Yeah, Pauline Moran.
And Philip Jackson.
Yeah, I don't see him in this one.
Who plays Hastings? What? Hugh Fraser.
Yeah.
Hugh Fraser. Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Hugh Fraser.
Just blanked there for a moment.
All right. This should be maybe a good time. All right. I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close.
Gavel sound.
King Tut. Steve Martin?
Sure, yeah.